This is you, as you've lived until this day. Tomorrow, it becomes Phantom.
What's up guys, it's your boy J Color, here with another episode of the First Few, and this week we're tackling the big one. That's right, Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. Just a little bit of a disclaimer up front, I am a huge Metal Gear Solid fan. The first Metal Gear Solid is my favorite game of all time, and I've played every single Metal Gear Solid game from then up to now, including the PSP Metal Gear Solids. There was Portable Ops and of course Peace Walker, which is heavily featured in the continuity, and whose story is continued here in this game. The footage that we're using here is from the very beginning of the game. I decided to wait until you actually start getting control of Snake, so there is a bunch of cutscenes before this, where you're basically just lying in bed after waking up from a coma. And I even debated between using this footage and the footage of when you first get to Afghanistan, and when you're actually able to wander around in the open world doing a mission. But it seemed to me that there was enough footage out there of that actual gameplay, including what Konami released, that it might be a better idea to use this gameplay, which might not have been as seen by the community. In fact, I believe if you search online the E3 trailer from a year or 2 years ago, I can't quite remember which, that was what was used, was the opening footage of the game in Afghanistan. But anyway, this game is possibly my game of the year so far, I would say. And now I'm going to be talking about it from two perspectives, from the perspective of the Metal Gear fan and the perspective of the gamer. Personally, from the perspective of a Metal Gear fan, this doesn't quite hit where I would want it to. The story is kind of lacking. It feels like a conscious choice by Kojima made here, where once you actually get into the open world, the story is scattered few and far between. There are audio logs in the form of cassette tapes that you can find that can kinda expound upon the story, but it's still very vague, and it's left up to a few cutscenes and you to fill in the gaps. Even something along these circumstances, where the opening of the prologue opens all these questions. I'm about 10 hours in. I just got to where I unlocked Africa, the open world of Africa, and most of the questions raised here haven't been touched on or answered, and I feel like a lot of them maybe won't be. Especially these scenes here, where my guess is that the masked man helping you is actually your own psyche. It's never really touched on or explicitly stated that that's what's happening here, even though it seems pretty clear to me that that is what's going on. The masked man and Snake are both voiced by Kiefer Sutherland. But outside of the story, from the perspective of a gamer, this is one of my favorite games in quite a while. There's just so much here to dive into, and I'm not going to really touch but on a tiny little bit in this video. But the gameplay is probably the best of any of these games to have ever come out. Any of the Metal Gear Solid games, really any stealth game in general. I do have a little bit of a problem with the open world environment. There seems to be a lot of empty spaces, and in between there's these outposts that you can do missions at, but there's not a lot to do in the spaces in between. You can happen across some animals or plants to be collected, but really that's it, and that isn't very satisfying. But the actual gameplay when you get to these outposts is outstanding. It feels great. There are a lot of options. The game seems to be built on options, really. A lot of different ways to take things on, and it lends itself to the open nature of the game. That seems to be what Kojima was going for more than anything else, was an open game. Open world, open in its options, open in your interpretation of the story. Everything seems very open. And with that gameplay, it keeps you going at a good pace, so even though I'm 10 hours in, I don't feel like I've necessarily been playing for 10 hours. There's no sense of fatigue yet. The game continues to reward you for playing, and new options open up the more you play. So right when you're becoming familiar and comfortable with a particular weapon or a particular technique that you've been using, the enemies will begin to adapt with their excellent AI, or your development team at Mother Base will provide you with a new weapon for you to try out. So anytime that you may come up on fatigue, the game compensates it nicely and adapts to your playstyle and continues you going. Even though, like I said, I'm about 10 hours in, it still feels very fresh. So like I said, I'm having a lot of fun with this. There are many more hours of gameplay I feel like ahead of me before I can give a definitive view on the game. And I'm not sure that this is even a game that I would be able to do a review for, just because there's so much there. The last video I did was, of course, the first few for Shadow of Mordor, and I wasn't even able to do a review for that. But hopefully I can get some more content out there. This is so far my game of the year, and I can't imagine that it'll be dethroned at all by anything else. Of course, Fallout 3 is still on the horizon, Fallout 4. But I was not the hugest fan of Fallout 3 or New Vegas. I didn't finish either of those games, so we'll just have to see. Maybe this new one can change my mind, but I'm not real hopeful of that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this edition of The First View. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and I will see you guys next time.
Hold up, let's fix this. Next time, do it yourself. It's always good to try and mend your injuries while hiding from the enemy. Over there.
Keep your head down.
Help me, please.
Let's move.
Help me. I don't want to die.